The big question is, will extending the extra $600 in weekly unemployment benefits help or hurt the economy? Critics say the money is holding back the labor force participation rate. Others say it's essential to keep this whole economy going. Joining me now with both sides of the story are Barry Knapp, the managing partner at Ironsides Macroeconomics, and Bill Rogers, chief economist at the Heldrich Center for Workforce Development at Rutgers. He was the chief economist at the Labor Department under President Clinton. It's great to have you both here. And Bill, I'll turn to you first to make the case for why extending the $600 benefit is necessary.
Well, number one is we've basically begun to build a bridge to recovery, and if you drop off the $600 to $200, you're actually removing one of the spans. And what's happening is that you have the economy's been growing, but because we've turned the spigot on, but not fast enough. It's not the aggregate demand. The need for workers is not as great. Because I would agree, if we were having a strong, robust economy, or even a stronger economy, job growth, yeah, I would agree that in the research does show when you have generous benefits, they end up retarding or lowering the odds or the desire for people to work. But the problem is other people, the reasons other people are not working is because of childcare, it's because they're fearful of getting back into the workplace, and they may have a pre-existing condition where they could get sick. So, the issue here is not only extending these benefits, but also providing state and local governments needed aid. Because if you don't do that, you also then are going to create a problem where you're not going to have the needed demand to support pushing workers back into the workplace.
And there has been a lot of research lately, Barry, demonstrating that there's no negative effect on the labor market from extending the unemployment benefits. There was a Yale study, even Evercore ISI said they didn't really see it keeping people out of the labor force, but you feel differently. Why?
Well, you had Stephen Davis on last week talking about the Yale study and how the Yale study didn't really look at people that didn't have a job to go back to. They looked at people that were invited back to their old job. But I don't think that that's really all that germane. It's so early in the crisis, as the professor just detailed. There is a question of demand at this point, and there's no doubt that that the transfer payments made a big contribution to that V-shaped, or what I've been calling Y-shaped recovery in consumption that's taken place thus far, at least in terms of core retail sales. The question is, and this is what the government's really good at adding stimulus, whether we're talking about the Fed or the fiscal authorities. They're not so good at removing that stimulus. My best contacts in DC tell me we're probably headed to something more like $400 per week, with both a state contingency that the Democrats are pushing for. It will remain in place until the unemployment rate hits X percent.
Right.
As well as a time expiration that the Republicans are asking for, because that time expiration is so crucial. If you go back to the last business cycle, 2014 was a shocking year, right? We fought over this extension to 99 weeks of unemployment benefits for years. Finally, in 2013, it ended. And then if you look at what happened to the labor market in 2014, it had its strongest labor force growth the entire business cycle 5 years into the business cycle.
Right.
You had an incredible pickup in what Davis calls worker reallocation, which is the quarterly sum of hiring and separations. That's the dynamism of the labor market. That led directly to a big jump in the Atlanta Fed wage tracker, which is probably the best wage measure out there. The labor force participation and employment to population ratios for prime age workers both improved decidedly that year. So, we have to be careful about how long we keep this stimulus in place. And that's really my argument, is that we do need to cut it to a level that's not disincentivizing people, and it needs to be contingent with a time, a born on Budweiser date on it.
Or an expiration date. Bill?
Well, I don't agree with him. It does not have to have a date if COVID.
You should be mad at tech that's unnecessary.
If there's no remedy for COVID, then why put a date on something? I don't agree with him on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, look, many people that have returned back to work feel that they are going to be laid off again. because in the workplace right now, folks all around them are getting sick. The illness have not stopped. In fact, it has increased for a lot of the ones that have gone back to work. So, millions of Americans, some did return back to work in May and June when their jobs reopened and businesses were rehiring them back. But of course, the economic recovery is still not there. They are still struggling to recover. Conditions around the country has since from May to now have deteriorated. Now, the last I heard, 44 out of 50 states are reporting a surge in coronavirus cases. So, I mean, that being said, you may have returned back to your job, but it's very unstable. And it's not any guarantee that because of COVID possibly surging even more in September and October during the fall, that you will be sitting back at home once again. The likelihood of that is great. It is, I would say, beyond 50%. So people who lost their jobs again, there's a silver lining, unemployment benefits. So they are still fighting over how much money to spend on the stimulus package. They claim the stimulus checks will go out. But they are still fighting over that $600, like that's all the money in the world. But that's what they're still fighting on. So we'll see what they come up with by the end of the week. I'll keep a close watch on that and keep you all informed. If there's any changes or if they give a date on when those stimulus checks will go out. So very much the same people that got it the last time should be getting it this time. Okay, so everything about unemployment insurance is too complicated. Michelle Evermore, a senior policy analyst at the National Employment Law Project, told CNBC. For one, states set different rules for their unemployment systems. But here's what Americans across the country can generally expect. Applying for unemployment benefits starts a year for that individual. A benefit year is a 52-week period following the date you filed a claim. Someone who filed for unemployment in March 2020 would have a benefit year that lasts into March 2021, for example. Jobless workers can collect benefits over that period, even though multiple waves of unemployment are coming. And we know it is. I mean, look, the analysts are saying layoffs are going to go well into 2021. However, states put limits on benefits people can receive in weekly amounts, the total duration over a year-long period frame. Those limits often mean someone won't be eligible to collect benefits for the whole year. Americans can think of unemployment benefits like a bank account. Chris O'Leary, a senior economist of W.E. Upjohn Institute for Employment Research. Let's say someone gets 380 a week, the average in the first quarter of the year. In state unemployment benefits, the state, like most others, pay benefits up to 26 weeks, about 6 months. This person would have a bank account of $9,880. Now, let's say a person started receiving 380 over a 13-week period since May. They got their old job back and stopped collecting unemployment. After some time, they are furloughed again. Half of their bank account would be left. In other words, they'd be able to resume their old benefit level of $380 a week for 13 more weeks. Some states allow people to collect benefits for longer than the maximum duration, 26 weeks, if they're drawing down a smaller chunk of their bank account each week, O'Leary said. This can occur through work sharing programs, for example, which pay a prorated unemployment benefit to part time workers. Let's say the same person's hours were cut in half. They could theoretically get 50% of their benefit, $190 a week, for the double the time, 52 weeks. So, a year of unemployment benefits, the CARES Act, and other rules mean people can get benefits over much over a much longer period of time than the typical, 26 weeks. The law firm, in addition, the law funds, in addition, of 13 weeks of benefits for unemployment recipients. This extension, called the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, expires at the end of 2020. States also have rules which predates the CARES Act that offer extended benefits during periods of high unemployment in their state. Most states have triggered these additional benefits, typically around 13 extra weeks, Evermore said. Some states like Florida and North Carolina pay fewer, around 6 weeks, and others pay up to 20 weeks. So I guess it depends on the state that you're in. So the CARES Act did include an extra 13 weeks. So look like people will at least be able to do a year and possibly beyond, especially if things don't get better. They're going to have to do something with all of these people unemployed, ladies and gentlemen. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.